Question is that the amendment be agreed to. I call the honourable member for Goldstein.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. It's my privilege to be able to rise to support the bill on the basis that we all care in this place about the challenges, the vulnerability and the needs of people, Australians dependent on aged care. In fact, many of us will know the story and the experience of putting a loved one, a grandparent, into aged care after having lived a happy and full life, sometimes beyond the lives of their spouse, in their own home, and then having the task of relocating them to their sunset years into the care of others. That's certainly my experience with my grandmother, who currently resides in aged care in Mount Eliza after the death of her husband many, many years ago, and now she's cared for and supported by others. And I know all members here and all Australians have similar stories and experiences. Deputy Speaker, you know, as I do, that when you allow loved ones over to the aged care system, there are many factors that go through people's minds. One is obviously the care and support for the person that they are seeking care for. Some it is about the financial challenges that can come with making sure we support people in aged care. But critically, at the fore of everybody's consideration is always the health and the safety of their loved one in aged care, to make sure that they're treated with dignity, with respect, and at the standard that we would want least for ourselves. And the task of us as legislators is how we provide a system that provides the highest degree of support and care and guarantee to Australians, that they can rely on the system to care for them. Now, there's a lot of technicalities and legalities around how the system is designed, and some of those challenges are very serious. But at the heart of it has to be a well-regulated sector where people are held to account for their conduct should there be misdeeds or misconduct. For those who are vulnerable, to have a pathway of complaint and know that they will be acted upon, and that the standards that we would wish for ourselves are set for others. And that's what this bill is part of a package of legislation seeking to address. The Commission brings together the functions of the Australian Aged Care Quality Agency, the Aged Care Complaints Commissioner from 1 January 2020. And what it will enable is for a clearer line of accountability and responsibility from government agencies to care for Australia's loved ones. And it's a simple measure as part of a package of what this government is doing to support people in aged care and to address the shortcomings of the system. The recently announced Royal Commission recognises that in vulnerability, some Australians experience horrific tragedy. And yes, there's been reports from individuals who have made them through different agencies over the years. One of the things I used to serve on, Deputy Speaker, was the Australian Health Practitioner Regulation Agency's body, Nursing and Midwifery Registration Board, and heard firsthand how, sadly, sometimes there is misconduct or abuse directly upon those people who are in no position to defend themselves, and at the people who are custodians for their care. Of course, many members in this place will have seen the horrific stories, in some cases, on recent episodes of Four Corners, and they do not sit in isolation. There have been those before that have been revealed and tell a worrying tale. And that's what the Royal Commission is designed to address, to turn light into those dark corners and make sure that truths are exposed and that those who have turned a willing blind eye or been accountable or are accountable are held so. It's part of a package more broadly of what this government seeks to do to make sure that Australians can have confidence in our aged care sector. We do have funding for aged care at record levels. In 2017-18 alone, aged care spending is estimated to reach $18.6 billion. And over the next 5 years, funding will grow by $5 billion to $23.6 billion. 1.6 has been provided to create an additional 20,000 higher needs home care packages since last December. In excess of $50 million being provided every year for dementia-specific programs. A further $5.3 million has been committed over 4 years to pilot improvements to care for people living with dementia, with an emphasis on use of innovative technologies. And that's the point, Deputy Speaker. While dollars and cents do matter, and no one's trying to pretend they don't, we can always have a discussion about what and how much and whether it should go up or whether it should go down or whether we should find new ways to spend it. But the outcome is what matters. And the realisation and the value of the public money spent is through the improved human condition of those receiving care. And one of the things, if you talk to anybody in the aged care sector, will tell you the broader trends, that a system designed where people would go in for prolonged periods towards their twilight years is changing. We, of course, are providing more home care packages so people can stay in their homes longer, to have the choice to do so, to get the care where they want it, to live in the community that they know and love. But what's happening is that people are going into aged care later and for shorter periods of time with much higher care needs. And that creates challenges for the system design, both with capital and infrastructure, based on prolonged times for people to stay there. But more critically, when people go in with higher care needs, they face bigger and more unique challenges. And the expansion in the need for dementia support services is a critical part of that story. Because people often go in, as I said, in their sunset years, increasingly not knowing as much of the world around them, with a declining memory and with an increasing distance to their reality. And our task is to make sure that we have a system that can care and support those people at that stage of life, and that they continue to enjoy not just comfort, though that is important, not just health and safety, though that is important as well, but dignity. Dignity within themselves, but also dignity for their families, so that they can preserve the memories as best possible of the people that they love and care about. And that ultimately is what this legislation and this government's package of reforms is seeking to achieve. is of course not the end. I'm under no doubt that the Royal Commission will uncover stories that will shock the nation. Because what people will see, as we have seen before, is that tragically there are times when people are in the care and assistance of others at no greater or more vulnerable stage of their life, and they're taken advantage of by those who should know better. And our task in response is to soberly and cautiously go through the evidence and the conclusions of the Royal Commission when it is completed, to not simply enter into a discussion around dollars and cents and think that that will solve all problems, because, as I've outlined already, Deputy Speaker, while that may be important as part of the story, and it is, what will deliver the improvements for the Australian people in the aged care sector is a sense of safety and dignity for their loved ones. And more critically, what we can't allow this Royal Commission to do is cast a dark light, a shadow, over so much of the good work in the aged care sector done every day. Because for every one person who wrongs, there are thousands who right. There are so many nurses, support staff and carers who every day, through sacrifice or love, turn up in community and commercial aged care facilities and provide ongoing love and compassion to those people who need that care, with the admiration of those they are cared for, of their families and their communities, who form a central part of the nucleus, often of rural and regional communities as well. And I said earlier today, Deputy Speaker, I recently went to the launch of the renovated facilities at Fairway Bayside Aged Care in Sandringham, just like I recently visited Vasey RSL Aged Care in Brighton East. And these services provide the most incredible facilities for people seeking to age with dignity. Support services that are highly attentive to their needs and fully recognise the expectations, not just that the community has of them, but recognises the expectations of their clients and their families. And what they deliver is a service that we should be proud of. They should be held up as exemplars. While there are wrongs, there are so many rights. And the same is true of so many other facilities across Goldstein, and I'm quite sure across the whole of the country. And our task as parliamentarians and as part of the national conversation is to celebrate their work, to thank them enduringly for what they do, and to uphold the integrity and the dignity of their profession at the same time as scrutinising those who have not met that standard, and to thank them every day for the incredible work you do to care, to love and to show compassion for this nation's most vulnerable. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.